almost certainly, we are moving into an age of totalitarian dictatorships, an age in which freedom of thought will be at first a deadly sin and later on a meaningless abstraction. The autonomous individual is going to be stamped out of existence. George Orwell's book 1984 is a made-up story, but much of what happens in it feels real when compared to what has happened, and still happens, in some countries. As Umberto Eco once said, almost everything Orwell describes isn't just a dark dream of the future, but parts of actual history. The writer Lawrence Durrell, who lived for a time in Belgrade under communist rule, said that reading 1984 there was strange because the story felt alive around him, as if the book were happening in real life. In this lesson, we're going to look at how Orwell's 1984 connects to real totalitarian governments of the 1900s, and how some of those same controlling habits seem to be returning in today's world. As we study this, we must remember that such systems only exist because people allow them to. That's why Orwell warned everyone soon after the book came out. Don't let it happen. It depends on you. A totalitarian government is one where a small group or a single ruler tries to control everything and everyone. Mussolini, who ruled Italy, said it clearly. Everything within the state, nothing outside the state, nothing against the state. This means no person is free to act or think independently. Such regimes can grow out of any political idea, but in the 1900s, communism and fascism became the main forms of totalitarian rule. Many people see these two as opposites, but when they were put into practice, both ended up doing the same thing, building powerful, fear-driven governments that controlled every part of life. They used violence and lies to get power, took away people's freedoms, destroyed art and culture, spied on everyone, spread fear through manipulation, and punished or killed anyone who dared to disagree. Orwell saw this happening in both Stalin's Russia and Hitler's Germany, and said that even though they began from different ideas, both were turning into the same kind of system, a small group of powerful rulers controlling the many through fear and force. In the communist and fascist governments of the 1900s and in Orwell's 1984, those in power kept people under control by using fear that they themselves created. Leaders in such systems, no matter if they claimed to be from the right or the left, knew exactly how to use fear to their advantage. They fed off chaos, confusion, and panic. Making people scared was one of their strongest and most useful tricks. Constant fear kept citizens weak, obedient, and too anxious to question what was happening around them. In 1984, one of the main ways the rulers kept control was by watching everyone all the time. This endless spying didn't just allow them to see what people did, it also made everyone so nervous that they wouldn't even think about breaking the rules. The government used telescreens, which were like TVs that could see and hear you. These screens were placed in every home and on every street. Orwell wrote that they worked both ways. They could show images and also record sounds and movements. Nobody ever knew when they were being watched, and people had to live as if they were being watched all the time. Every sound, every action could be seen or heard, and even the smallest movement could draw attention. But it wasn't just the telescreens. The people themselves became part of the spying system. Everyone watched each other, and no one was truly safe from being reported. Even a harmless expression, a small frown, or a quiet word could be seen as a crime. If someone looked bored or upset when Big Brother appeared on the screen, they could be accused of thought crime or face crime, meaning they had disloyal thoughts. As one of Orwell's characters, O'Brien, said, "It is unbearable to us that a wrong thought should exist anywhere, even if it is secret." In Stalin's Russia, the writer Alexander Solzhenitsyn described the same kind of world. No one could trust anyone else, not neighbors, friends, co-workers, the mailman, or even family members. A single careless word against Stalin or communism could mean prison or death. The secret police might arrive late at night, and people would disappear for years into harsh prison camps called gulags, often sentenced to 10 years of forced labor. Because of this constant danger, lying became the normal way to survive. Solzhenitsyn wrote that people lived inside a permanent lie. Every word had to match what the government wanted to hear. People learned to repeat empty phrases, to to say what was expected, and to hide their true feelings. In this world, honesty was dangerous, and pretending became the only way to stay alive. Along with fear, confusion also filled people's minds. In such societies, truth and lies were mixed together until no one could tell them apart. People stopped knowing what was real, and that loss of clarity made it easier for those in power to rule without resistance. Just Mirlu once said that many people who lived under totalitarian governments told him the worst part wasn't the pain or even the fear, it was the total loss of reason. They described a deep confusion where nothing seemed to make sense anymore, and truth itself felt like it had vanished. They didn't know what was real or what was false. Their minds had been twisted until everything around them felt uncertain and meaningless. In 1984, this kind of mental confusion was created by changing and erasing the past. The rulers rewrote history and destroyed the idea of objective truth, the idea that some things are simply real, no matter what anyone says. The Ministry of Truth was the part of the government that did this job. Orwell wrote, "Everything faded into mist. The past was erased. The erasure was forgotten. The lie became truth." By doing this, the regime took away all points of comparison, so people couldn't remember a time when life had been freer or happier. As Orwell explained, within a short time, no one would even be able to ask, was life better before the revolution than it is now? Because they wouldn't have any memory of what came before. Another reason totalitarian leaders rewrite history is to cut people off from their roots. If citizens can't look back and find truth or inspiration in their past, they become easier to control. Any belief system, such as religion or philosophy, that could give people strength or a place to think for themselves, must be destroyed or absorbed by the state. For such a government to make people accept endless suffering and obedience, it must first control the past. As Orwell wrote, "Every record has been destroyed or falsified, every book rewritten, every picture repainted, every statue and building renamed, every date changed. And that process continues minute by minute. History has stopped. Only an endless present remains where the party is always right." But the confusion doesn't stop there. Destroying history is only part of it. The rulers also destroy people's belief in truth itself. They use lies and mental tricks to make everyone doubt their own understanding. Through non-stop propaganda, fake reports, and mixed messages spread by the media, the truth becomes impossible to find. What's said today might be completely different tomorrow, and no one dares question it. Orwell explained that totalitarian states create unquestionable dogmas that they constantly change, because their goal isn't truth, it's obedience. In 1984, the Ministry of Plenty gave a perfect example of this kind of lie. They announced that the weekly chocolate ration was being raised to 20 grams, but the day before they had said it was being reduced to 20 grams. Still, people believed the new statement without question. Winston, the main character, wondered if he was the only one who remembered what had been said before. It showed how far people had fallen into mental blindness. In such a world, contradictions and lies become the foundation of everything. The government calls slavery freedom and censorship protection. When they destroy culture, they claim it's progress. When they attack or invade other countries, they say it's to spread peace and liberty. In this upside-down system, words lose their meaning, and truth becomes whatever the rulers decide it is. In 1984, the world is upside down. The Ministry of Peace starts wars instead of ending them. The Ministry of Truth spreads lies instead of facts. And the Ministry of Plenty makes people go hungry instead of giving them what they need. On the tall, pyramid-shaped building of the Ministry of Truth were giant words written for all to see. War is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength. Orwell explained that this strange system of mixed-up ideas was not a mistake. It was done on purpose. The goal was to confuse everyone's mind so deeply that they stopped being able to think clearly. When people are constantly fed lies and contradictions, they begin to lose their sense of direction. As Orwell described, they live in a world where Black may be white tomorrow, and even yesterday's truth can be erased with a simple order. After a while, people forget how to tell what's real and what's fake. Right and wrong lose their meaning, and truth stops mattering. The more confused people become, the more they depend on leaders to tell them what to believe. At that point, they will accept anything, no matter how foolish, as long as the powerful say it's true. A Soviet official named Georgy Pyatakov once said that a perfect follower of the party would believe that black was white if told to. His mind and spirit would belong completely to the party, leaving nothing of himself that could disagree. He had no private thoughts. Everything he was belonged to the system. The philosopher Leszek Kołakowski, who was banished from Poland for speaking against communism, explained how such control destroys people. When a government takes over people's memories, both their personal ones and those shared by a whole nation, it owns their minds. Once that happens, people lose their identity and strength. They can no longer question, create, or dream. They become like lifeless objects that simply obey. In 1984, the main character, Winston, tries to resist this kind of control. For much of the story, he holds on to his own mind and refuses to give in, even though fear surrounds him everywhere. Early on, he writes, "Down with Big Brother," in his secret diary. But after he is captured by the thought police and tortured into re-education, his strength begins to fade. He gives up his beliefs, betrays his own thoughts, and finally accepts the lies he once fought against. Orwell writes that Winston could no longer fight the party. He started to think as they did. With shaky hands, he wrote the words, "Freedom is slavery," and then, 2 and 2 make 5. His fight was over. He had been broken. In the end, Winston believed the final lie. He loved Big Brother. Some people think this sad ending means Orwell was hopeless, that he believed humanity was doomed to live under total control. But Orwell's real purpose in writing 1984 was the opposite. He wanted to wake people up, to warn them about what could happen if they stopped caring about truth and freedom. He wanted readers to feel alarmed enough to protect their minds and their liberty, because in the fight between control and freedom, no one can just watch from the sidelines. Everyone's future depends on what they choose to do. As Orwell himself said, "Don't let it happen. It depends on you."